So, you've been doing landscape for a minute, and you've had some landscape projects. You've dug some holes. You've moved stuff you didn't think you could move by yourself. You had some buddies help you, and you're sitting there thinking, it might be time to get into a machine. Things that you need to consider. Machines, their sole purpose is to replace labor and or expand you into new markets and territories and tasks. But largely, a machine's purpose and only purpose is to replace labor, is to be able to do more in a billable hour than you could otherwise do by physical labor. So, I have a machine back there that I am demoing. It's the type of machine that I've never bought before, and so I am going through all of these processes all over again. I've done this many times, but we are looking at expanding some of our services. And so I am now back to the drawing board on things that I want to consider when I buy a machine. And so all of this content is very fresh and very real to me right now. So one thing to consider when you're getting your first machine is, what is a task that the machine is there to replace? Is it moving things? Is it drilling holes for trees? Is it picking up waste? And there's many machines in the landscape space, and you have to figure out how big are those tasks, what type of properties are those tasks, and what type of revenue do those tasks bring in. So that way we can try to figure out, okay, what type of machine do you really need? As you evaluate your tasks, you want to look at other people doing those same tasks and see what type of machines they're running. Not necessarily brands, but at this point we're looking for class of machine. What size are those machines? What are they? Track machines? Are they wheel machines? Are they loaders? Are they excavators? What are they? Once you figure out and you have a pretty good idea of 1 to 2, possibly 3 machines that could work for your tasks, you want to think about versatility. Versatility is going to let you be super versatile and let you do as many things as possible. Now, you may not need versatility, so that may not really, you may need one thing, like a mower. And, you know, when you're push mowing, you're like, hey, I need a ride-on mower, and I mow lawns with it 40 hours a week, so that's what I need. But when you get into a machine for landscape work, it's going to need to have some sort of versatility to it, because more likely than not, it's going to have to do a couple different things for you. Obviously, the Bobcats are very popular, and that's most people's go-to. But do you have the truck to pull something that is that heavy? Do you need something that's that heavy, or do you need something bigger or smaller? So once you have that figured out, you want to go ahead and take the 2 to 3 machines that you have picked out, and you want to rent one. So you want to actually get behind it and you want to rent it. You could demo it. Once you demo it, you're kind of already at the dealer. You're kind of already, you know, moving along with this process, and you don't really want to involve the sales process yet. So renting it is the way to go. I've rented many different machines. I've tried Teramites, and I've tried this and that when I was trying to segue into machines, and I'm trying to figure out, do I need like a Kubota backhoe with a loader and then like a backhoe in the back, and then I can mow with it. You know, depending on your area, something like that might be awesome. So now that you've rented the machine, you want to go ahead and rent another machine on your list. So once you've rented 1 or 2 machines and you kind of see how this process is going, you're pretty much honed into what you need to buy. Now the question is, I have to go and pick a machine. Am I going to go buy new, or am I going to buy used? There's 2 big decisions here. You don't really know how well this machine's going to pan out for you. I can say most of the time whenever I buy a machine, things typically work out really well for me. I'm trying to segue away from labor and into machines. It lets me hire better employees. It lets me make more revenue. It lets me do less labor. And so I am trying to I started with a lawn company, and then turned into a landscape company, and then I started doing landscape and supply, and I'm trying to pretty much just get into supply and excavation services for landscapers. So I won't be involved in many landscapes anymore, just kind of the fun part of going out and helping guys with machines, renting machines to guys, and then obviously selling them materials. That's been my personal story. But you want to figure out if you're going new or used. My first machine, I went used, and it was a Bobcat. And I was able to get into it for cash because I had the cash on hand. And I wasn't really sure if it was going to be something I was going to need or not. Once we got it and we figured out, yes, we're over the 300 hour a year thing. If you can't use a machine, particularly a Bobcat, more than 300 hours a year, so machine hours, 300 hours a year, you probably are best off renting it in most cases. So once you figure out if you're going new or used, there's advantages to both, and we won't discuss that here, but we'll touch on it. Obviously with the used machine, you're probably going to pay it cash. You're going to get a deal. could get a deal, you could get something that's junk, you could end up with a bucket of bullets and be in the repair shop all the time. New machine, you have the advantage of financing it, and that's a whole nother video, and we'll talk about financing versus paying cash and when you want to do those things. But then after you go ahead and pick a machine, then you want to figure out what your growth plan is. So you want to figure out what your sales plan is, and then what your growth plan is. So if your first machine, you don't really know exactly what to expect. So a lot of what you're doing is kind of assumptions, and you're testing those assumptions. You're testing a hypothesis, which is why you wanted to rent the machine in the first place. You wanted to see if it could really do those tasks, if it was the right thing for you. And then to recap on it, the reason that you're getting a machine is to replace labor and increase your revenues. So all things to consider. Recap. We're getting a machine to replace labor. We want to rent the machine that we think might work. We know what might work by watching other people, kind of researching it on the internet. We're gonna rent 2 or 3 different machines, 1 or 2 for sure, just to see, you know, is this the machine that we need for the task? Is it versatile enough for us for whatever task we're doing? Are we set up to take on that machine? Do we have the right truck to tow it? Can we get a smaller thing that we don't have to change out our truck? Whatever. And then we want to figure out, are we going used or new? There's advantages to both. And then we want to figure out what our long-term growth plan is. So once we get into machines, it's very, very likely that once you get into your first machine, you'll probably be into a second machine by the end of the year, or within a year's time. And that was at least true for us. So once you get into machines, I think you'll find that your business grows very, very quickly, mainly because you are replacing labor, and it just lets you scale that much more. Also going to let you do other types of projects that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do or didn't have the opportunity to, and it's going to let you network with a different set of customers, and we'll touch on that in a moment.